There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
He said, your hosts, AJ
and Natalie. That's us.
We're back. Guess who's back?
Right.
Back
It's show
again.
time.
We've been gone the last 2 weeks, giving our producer a little break, and we are totally amped and pumped to be back. We've missed everybody.
It's so true.
It was a nice break, though. I'm not even going to lie. I didn't know what to do with myself, but it was nice. I just was like, I'm just going to chill. I'm not even going to fill in the empty space. I'm just going to be. And
I agree.
It was so good.
It was nice to have a little bit of break and a little personal time.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy life.
Enjoy life. I mean, we enjoy life when we're here.
It's so true.
Most of the time, I think. Not all. I hope.
Well, I do.
Okay, good.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a good reminder of how much work goes on behind the scenes that I don't realize when I'm doing it. And then when I'm not doing it, how much extra time I had. And I was like, wow, I really do put more time and effort into this show than it feels like. Cause you know, you do what you love what you do. And
That's
so
right.
You don't realize how much work you're actually doing until you're not doing it. And then you're like, whoa, wow. Yeah, I really do a lot.
Yes.
And I'm not doing it. This feels strange.
And to see how much time it actually, you know, the extra time when you're not doing that work, then you just count the time and you're like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like those days where you have things set on the calendar, and then when you're released from that calendar on that day, you're just like, what do I do?
What do I do with myself? So I actually did. So the last 2 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I just decided that I was just going to create as much as I possibly could. That was the goal. It didn't necessarily happen. And this is what is so frustrating, because I had intention of creating every single day. So Monday all day, Tuesday all day, and then Wednesday night, because I'm at the shop Wednesday days. And then I go sit at my desk where I have all my art supplies and all the things, and I'm blank.
Oh,
totally lost my inspiration. It was gone. It was totally gone. And I was like, what is this? I have room. I have time. I have no distractions. And I'm just like blank slate.
You know, the creative energy is quite something to observe and say, you just can't create just on like demand.
Mm-mm.
Like there has to be a creative flow.
For me.
Well, I think that's often, at least in my studies of like design and different things like that, it's like it's that creative energy is not necessarily like on demand. You hear about writer's block or various things like that you have to prime it or.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a thing. And so I'm like, oh, I just need to get really sad.
Probably.
If I get really sad, I can create like nobody's business. So I'm all putting on this really melancholy music, heartbreaking music, like broken heart, you know, all this stuff. And I was just like, I need to feel something. Nothing.
Oh, you didn't turn on your pills.
Eyes cold. I'm like, okay, this is stupid. What are we going to go do now?
Oh, that's.
I love all of the people who are in chat room right now. You guys, I've missed you. look at your cute little names come across the board. I like it so much. Thank you for all of the support. If any of you are listening live on kgradb.com, you can also go into the chat rooms on KGRA Digital Broadcasting on Facebook and Rumble pages. I think Facebook is probably the most active these days. But not everyone is on the Book of Faces.
No, not everybody is.
Yeah, just the smart ones right now. No judgment to anyone else. But it looks like we've been missed. So thank you for missing us.
It feels good to the ego, doesn't it?
I don't even know if it's ego. These are my people. I'm just happy to be there. I've got to spend some time with Maria and Charles and even Ronald. He's not in the chat yet. I spent some time with them during my time off. That was interesting. I'll say that. I'll say it was fun and interesting. More on the interesting side. It was good.
Oh, the stories.
What's your 2 weeks been like?
Well, let's see. I have been studying. For those that listen, know I just love the human design. So I took the opportunity to purchase a course and put myself immersed into some of the details and just the opportunity to. So I take the course and then I see it unfold in life, and understanding that how we just get trapped into the not self, and how untangling ourselves with some level of wisdom is really beneficial. Sometimes I get the opportunity to have a very long conversation. I had almost a 4-hour conversation with someone, and some of the takeaways with that is loneliness. You know, the alone trap. How many people get caught up in the alone, the fear of being alone, and then it drives them into do different situations. In this particular person's case, he just was so afraid of being alone. It would trap him, and it would trap other people, that he would almost in some ways like try to corral into a relationship. It's almost a desperation to have a relationship, to not be alone.
Yeah.
So I was just contemplating that and just like, that is hard. I've had my own battles with that particular thing. So that was one of my musings over this last week or so, was about the aloneness trap and how difficult it is for humans to be alone. And then the concept that's taught that's like, our separateness is an illusion. We aren't separated from anything, but it really feels like that sometimes.
It does. It does. It definitely can. And there is a big difference of being alone and feeling lonely.
Right.
And I think that there are two very different experiences, like being alone, like really feeling like you're alone, like having nothing, no one around, is far different than being lonely, like not having anyone around in that regards. So
right. And so
both of them don't feel great.
No, both of them don't feel good. And then what you do with, how do you navigate that space of, and the mind, how the mind just like wants to just run off with you, and the mind can create so many stories.
Absolutely.
And I watch that all the time. And then I also had the opportunity to do twice a year, I get to speak at an event that I just really, really enjoy, which is the mortuary where I work. One of my jobs that I do does this butterfly release, and it's beautiful. And I get the opportunity to stand in front of an audience and just speak. And I have this ability to organically come up with messages, especially if it's a concept that I love and talk about all the time. And I had that opportunity. And then they release these like 250 butterflies. And these butterflies are flying all over the ground, and people are just like, sometimes they land on people, and it all has to do with grief. And it's a beautiful event that they just put on. So about 30 minutes, and then the butterflies get free.
Yeah, it sounds super magical.
And then people come up and say, thank you, that I've never heard anyone talk about grief that way.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, that's good.
You do have a unique way of sharing what grief looks like or feels like with someone else in a way that most people have never even heard of, let alone can comprehend. And when you're in the moment of grief, the things that you share are like no other that they're hearing from everyone else, right? So it just is like kind of, I feel like from what I've witnessed with you sharing with other people, is they're like stuck in this grief cycle, whatever, however long that's been. And they've heard the same things on repeat from people
Mhm.
or the same suggestions or, whatever that looks like. And then you come in with this new vocabulary and they're pulled out of that cycle and are able to view grief in a different way.
Well, that's a good thing. Because
Yeah,
it's one of those things to say, oh, I told them all to come apart. I'm like, you're going to need some come aparts.
absolutely.
It's very important to come undone and to
Mhm.
have when life radically shifts and that aloneness or that lonely factor, like
Mhm.
that so often happens after loss and navigating those spaces where things so radically change. And then our current, and then I study like the current events that are going on and a lot of things that are going in the world. And there's a lot of so many changes that what was isn't
Mm,
anymore. And that's on a bigger scale, not like necessarily with death and things like that. But
right.
that's been a personal awareness of mine of saying we're just not going back to what was in so
Right.
many levels and the ability to wrap ourselves around that. So I do what I do.
Yeah.
I sit
And
with
you're good at
people and say, okay, well, let's talk about how that's different and how it's going to be
You're good at what you do.
okay too. And on top of that, I got to spend some more time at home and in my own space, and
Mhm.
which is nice.
Yeah.
To kind of do. Natalie's not. So I haven't always been really great at personal time. I have within my own framework that it's
I
like
love being
I
alone.
just like
I love my alone time.
You do alone really easily.
I do. I'm quite comfortable with it.
No, I get a little wonky after about a day and a half of just being by myself, even if it's like interaction on the phone and text and stuff like. It's been really interesting to watch myself through the years that I'm just like, I've got to go to a grocery store or something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel that too after a certain amount of time and getting out and doing things, but I'm still doing it alone. You know, for you bring up the being alone and being lonely, like there are so many times where I can be in a crowded room and still feel very much alone or feel very lonely. And that's just always been something about me. And it sounds so depressing. It used to feel very depressing. And now I understand that's just part of who I am.
Right.
I have these big, deep feelings.
Mhm.
And sometimes if experiences don't look or aren't a certain way for me, then I'm like, I'm all alone. And we all know that's not true. None of us are ever alone. Never, ever.
No.
And it's just a matter of like getting your mindset straight about that. But the lonely part is, I think that every human being craves connection on a certain level.
Right.
And some can have very mild connection and some require deeper connection, like me. I'm one of those more complicated humans. I'm not interested in friendships if they aren't deep and meaningful.
Right.
I don't do surface level friendships. And um, if I'm surrounded by people where I'm just very surface with them, it's just really, really boring. And it does make me feel very alone. And it's no
And-
judgment towards them. I'm
Right.
just a deep diver.
It's true.
It-
You are.
It's
We
just
go. I'll
part
go
of,
swimming in. They just like. I understand that completely.
yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Well, the one thing I like is we get these, the opportunity on the show to interact with people that offer up a connection with the thing, so often it's with what's bigger than us. And this ability to connect. And sometimes in those spaces, it's really important to open up. And I was, my lovely sister, my beautiful sister, I've had the beautiful opportunity to have some great conversations with her recently. And that's nice because I don't always connect with my family, but I have. And I was telling her, it's like, open up. Like if you have that picture of coming into a dark room, and sometimes we can have our internal dark room and we need to open up the blinds. And, in those scenes in the movie where another person comes in and the person's laying in bed all depressed and dark and moody and melancholy, and they rip open the big drapes and they let the sun shine in. And we have to do that sometimes with ourselves. We need to literally like uncurl ourselves and open up your arms and chest and look up and get into the sun and challenge that sort of darkness, even if it's like, I don't want to, because we get kind of attached to our mood.
Uncomfortable.
It's like, I want to feel moody and dark. And I was like, okay, for a while, but sometimes it's good to open up. Let the sun shine in.
It is. But I really love the dark times because that's when I'm most creative.
It's so true.
Darkness is my muse.
That melancholy does have quite the creative energy in it.
It does.
And so I can see. But you just couldn't force yourself into a melancholy.
Nah, you can't fake it.
It's like, I guess it's not creation time right now.
No, it was production time. I just decided I'll just make a bunch of things for Sacred Raven. At least I'm being productive.
Oh,
so it's still creating. It's just not creative. I've already created it, and then it's just on repeat. But it's all good. There's something going on there. It's better than nothing.
I had the opportunity. I've been processing some wood, and so I came across some unique pieces that were in this lumber that I was processing, and so I'm gonna like varathane them, and they're gonna be these really cool signature pieces of wood. Has such character in it, and there's sometimes it's like wood that's like blah, same sign, same design, not bit, and then there's some others that would be like, this is fantastic. Just look at this beauty.
Yeah.
In the woods. So I was working on that today a little bit.
Oh, how fun.
I know I'm excited to, when I'm done with the shelving, these are going to be different shelves or things, and I'll show you and you'll be like, oh, that's cool.
It will probably make me very happy.
The personality of the wood just pops out of these particular pieces.
I love watching people get creative. It like really brings me so much joy. And I think that's part of the art therapist in me, where I work with other people in their darkest days and then bring light to their life through creating. And it's just so exciting and electrifying. I just think it's so wonderful. It makes me happy.
Oh, I had a someone reach out to me today who does breath work and was talking about like maybe collaborating or something. And it got me thinking about how I've thought so often about workshopping or doing retreats for grief, and then getting all these different people like that can take people through art therapy. Much different approach than mine to grief, but it's, that would be lovely to have to collaborate with you. It's like, let's get a few people together and walk people through this.
I think
journey.
So. Yeah, no, I think that would be really awesome. We've talked about that before. I think it would be something really special.
I think it would be.
If we could create something along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm down.
It's future.
I'm down.
Build stuff. Let's build stuff. You're a manifester. You can help us build. I'll build, you initiate.
I am a manifester. Sorry, I was a little distracted. I want to know. I had my employee just text me. The store's open. Things are going on.
Yes. You want to know?
Just people, integrity. Not my employees.
Right.
Customers. Anyway, side note. Just be a good human. Don't take stuff that's not yours.
It's a good advice. Bad karma.
I apologize for the distraction. I get to always be available as long as the hours are operating, no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing.
It's true.
That's the joy of being a business owner.
Big responsibility. Capital R.
Yes. So tonight we have a brand new guest.
Yeah.
Which we do most of the time, but I've really been excited. We've had him booked for a while, so just getting to know him from what the interactions going back and forth of what's been shared with me and from his agent. I feel like tonight's going to be a very enlightening conversation. I think that we'll gain something quite beautiful from it.
I was looking forward to it. It's like the entrance into spirituality, connection with spirituality. It's like,
right. And we discuss spirituality quite a bit on the show. We're not a spiritual show, but we are human beings having this spiritual experience.
right.
And I think just by that alone, like it becomes a show based in spirituality most weeks.
Wandering with Souls kind of would have that sort of spin on it.
The soul wanderers. Yes. And so I it's not just him coming on the show and knowing he's coming, but I've had conversations with people who are just questioning, why are we here? What's the point? Because things are really heavy and dense right now.
Yeah.
And so many people are just living in fear or like not knowing or have no direction or purpose, don't have a belief system. I have never really been a religious person, and I don't even know if I want to call myself a spiritual person, especially with what spirituality has become. And it's really forced me to be introspective and really dig deep into what I believe now. I know that there are things that I have believed in, and when I've revisited them, I don't know if I believe in them anymore. And having an NDE, like that's just my experience, and that's very real to me, but that didn't give me the answers that I was seeking as a human being. And all of us are seeking these answers.
The answer, like as if there's
whatever
one.
the question is, right?
Sure. Right.
And at the end of the day, we're really not supposed to know. I mean, that's part of the journey.
Well, I don't know if it's really even possible to know,
right,
in the way that we search to know.
Exactly. And so it's just that never-ending question that will not have a full answer in this experience. And so that kind of brought me to a place of not sadness or anything, just kind of like, wow, well then what am I doing? You know what I mean? What exactly? But you just like question everything.
Sure.
And like, what am I doing? Like, I'm holding space. What does that mean? Well, it means this. And then what does that mean? Well, it means that. And what's your purpose? Well, I feel like this is my purpose, but what does that mean? And so I'm just like diving deeper and redefining who I am today versus still flying on the coattails of who I discovered I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And I think it's been a really neat process of rediscovering me as I've dug into more layers, right? And if I could say anything to the listeners, like I know the listeners that we have, like in the chat room specifically right now, they're seeking answers. They're wanting to know things too. That's part of why they're here. It's part of why they do what they do. When I see them doing what they're doing, they're expanding their minds and opening their hearts and doing their healing and all this beautiful, beautiful stuff, right? That is part of our purpose here, is our soul's growth. And I just think, wow, like so many of us have these big questions and nobody has the answer, yet so many of us think that we are right. And I don't think any of us really are.
Well,
And so it's just really neat when we have a new guest who comes in specifically to talk about spirituality and hear what their viewpoint is or what they think this journey is all about.
Yes.
And with what I've seen from, just the little blips that I know about our guest, I really am excited to hear what he has to share, because I think we'll learn something tonight, or at least, open a door to new perspectives. That's exciting to me.
It is exciting. That's why I love doing this show with you.
Well, I'm glad that you decided to do the show with me. I noticed that I had an anniversary date of 5 years with KGRA in January. I don't think I even acknowledged or recognized it. And I've been doing the show. It will be 7 years the end of this month.
That's just incredible.
Yeah. So it's just another thing. Like, is this still where I'm meant to be? Is this still my passion? Am I still inspired to share space with all of these beautiful people?
So far today, it still is.
I showed up. Yes, no, we're good. We're good. After having 2 weeks off, it gives you time to evaluate and really think about it. So yay for that. Let's go ahead and take our break. And when we return, our guest will be joining us. So stay close, everyone. We'll be right back.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings. I am AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And we are your hosts. And we are heard on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. You can visit us there and learn more about us in the show at kgradb.com. Tonight we have the opportunity to wander with Rob Wykes. He is the author of Pause, A Spiritual Power, Discovering the Entrance to Our Spirituality, where he relates accounts of his own journeys, physical and spiritual, that have helped him discover his own spiritual self. And rumor has it, he's often described as an engaging visionary and storyteller, passionate about spirituality. So let's get into it. Maybe.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello, Rob. Welcome.
Hello. Great to be with you. It really is. Yeah.
Oh, we're really excited to have you. We love this topic. We love to hear others' versions of spirituality and what that looks like and feels like for them. So,
yeah, I think that's really important. Actually, I've been listening to some of what you've been saying, and really resonates with me because I'm not sure any of us can completely say that we've got the answer, or that we've nailed it. When anybody says to me, I've found it now, that's it, there's nothing else to discover, well, they're telling me something that I know they can't be true. You know what I mean? It's so it's really good to know that actually we're on a journey. I mean, the show is called Wanderings, and we're on a journey. And I guess, I've got this great opportunity to spend a bit of time with you, and love to share how I have, I guess, where I've come to, where my journey is arrived at. And the great thing is, I'm on the journey. I haven't come to an end. And in fact, as the days go by, as you do with all things, you realise just how much further you've got to go. But it's exciting, yes. So I don't know. Are you going to ask me some questions, or do you want me to just dive in?
Dive in. The rest of the show's about you, and questions will come up, and we will be sure to ask them.
Please do. So a brief biography, if you like.
Yes.
As you know, I'm in England, and it's 1:30 in the morning here, so it's quite late. Everybody's in bed, and it's dark. But yeah, so I'm in England, born in a very ordinary family. I didn't get a great education. I think you would call them a project. I lived on a council estate, so lots of small houses, quite a lot of poverty around, very working class parents. Left school. I often tell people this is a reality, that I left school and my teacher wrote on my end of year report, my final year, Wykes is an amiable lad, but functionally illiterate. And to which I said, what does that mean, sir? So I didn't get a great start. I did wander a little bit, a few jobs here and there, mostly in the building trade. I was interested to listen to something Natalie mentioned earlier. I love to play with wood. I was, for many years, a carpenter, and I still got a workshop. And in fact, for me, it's a very spiritual experience to pick something up and be creative and make something. So I could put spirituality right in there, with a chisel and a hammer. But yeah, so I went along. I had a little business, and then I travelled from England. I don't know if you can picture it in your map, but I had a very interesting experience. I would call it an out-of-body experience. I was invited along to a church, never been inside a church. I was only in my very early 20s. And I just had one of these experiences, can't really explain it. Everybody was doing something. It was a baptism, actually. It was a church where they look like they're going to drown somebody, it's a full immersion baptism. And everybody was engaged fully, clapping and singing. And I just sat at the back, at first thinking they're all on some drugs, and I haven't actually had the same drug, or just something else is going on. And then I had this experience where I felt it wasn't physical, but to me it seemed quite physical, that I was lifted up and looking down. So I wasn't present. I was looking in. And that was the first time I think I ever really experienced something which I would say was a spiritual experience. I encountered something other than that I couldn't explain, if you like. And then I bizarrely bought a Bible, a Christian Bible, and a ticket to Athens. And I traveled to Athens. I don't know what the relevance was. Traveled to Athens, and then I went through Iran, Pakistan. I hung around that part of the world, and I really got to understand all the different cultures and religions and different expressions of what was called spirituality. And I think that was really the birth of my investigation. I came back, got married, got 2 lovely children, 2 girls. I studied, I went to college. I thought I was going to be a minister. So I went to a Bible college and trained for the ministry. And in a sense, that's where I have been for a long time. I became a chaplain to the railway, which was you know what a job of a chaplain is, for a short while. And then I took over an old church building called St. Paul's. So it's an old church, and I raised some money and gathered some people, and we basically split the church in half and created an upstairs and a downstairs. And I built woodworking shops, cycle repair, food banks. And we worked with broken people who society weren't interested in. And again, that was another part of my great journey, really, that for me, creativity, bringing people out of darkness into light, giving them a chance to see that they are beautiful, regardless of what they may have been told, that they are capable, regardless of what they've been told. All of that stuff to me was not just restoring, I guess, a physical or an emotional experience, but it gave people a chance to think of themselves more widely. And that's what Pause is about. So Pause, the book, is really about that. I believe you and I are more than our body and more than our mind, you know, and there's something else. I can't explain it. It's a mystery. I love mysticism. It's a realm that we don't really fully grasp. And part of me and part of the book is to say, in some ways, I wonder if we don't grasp the spiritual world because we don't really entertain it. In fact, one of the adverts that was just on a moment ago was about a juice to put in our body because we're so obsessed with our health and well-being. And rightly so, it's good to look after your body. And we're very obsessed about our brain and our mental health. But actually, what about our spiritual well-being? And so that's what the book is about. How do we discover entrances to our spirituality? So yeah, that's a bit of a brief. Was it brief or not? You'll have to stop me if you need to.
No, it's good. It's good.
So,
we do have one break, but that's not for a little while.
Okay. So yeah, so that's really me, I suppose, in some ways. Some of the things in the book are stories or illustrations, and some of them are from my life. There's one memorable one. My wife and I went to Spain on holiday. So one of the things about the book is I'm aiming to open a conversation, not deliver a program. So in Pause, Spiritual Power, the aim is that you would read it and it would open for you opportunities to explore. But it's not a prescription. You know, one of the great things I think is sometimes we think it's like making a cake. How do I have a spiritual experience? Well, you do X, Y, and Z, stir it together, and you'll be a spiritual giant. Well, life's just not like that, is it? It just isn't. So I've not pretended that. But my wife and I were in Spain about 4 years ago, and we were walking along a cliff face, and the sea was down below us quite a distance. And we thought we'd get to the sea, and we tried, but it was so steep and so difficult. We thought we were going to have to give up. And then we saw a rope. Really bizarrely, it was a huge rope, and it was staked heavily into the ground. So we used it to abseil down onto a beach. Unfortunately, my wife slipped. It could have been a terrible accident. She did get some bruising. But anyway, we got to the bottom. And at first, when we reached the bottom of this steep bank down to the beach, sea was very, very loud and crashing waves. When we first got down there, we thought it was a bit of a disaster because we were worried about how we were going to get back up. But when we calmed down and just accepted the place we were in, it was one of those beautiful moments in life, unrepeatable, when we knew we were somewhere where it was very difficult to get to, but once you get there, you never want to leave. And that for me is a pause. It's a moment when the body is rested, the mind stopped being anxious, and somehow it opens up to us the possibility that there's something else about us as human beings. So that's the kind of thing that the book speaks about. There are other things, other occasions in the book. I don't want to tell you everything, otherwise nobody will buy it. No, I'm just joking. Other occasions that we sometimes forget what it's like to be still and to enjoy solitude. We think solitude is, I used to think that, for instance, you've got to be a monk. You've got to go off to the desert, find a cave, cross your legs and hum. And then you'll be spiritual. And then you'll be pure. And then I read that a lot of these great people of the past, they got their desert place, they got their cave, they sat down and they realized that the great noise they were trying to get away from was in their own head. So silence and solitude are not about a physical place. They're about somewhere inside us. A great man called Henry Newen, who was a Catholic priest, he spoke heavily about creating your own desert place. Could be your kitchen, your garden, could be your shed, your workshop. But somewhere that's sacred to you, somewhere that's the only place where you can feel alive with your spirit. One of the other things to mention about the book, and again, it's a kind of theory I'm putting out there, is that I believe that the spiritual realm is so difficult for us to grasp because it's unlike anything else that we have. So we categorize most things. When my grandson, who lives with us at the moment, comes home from school, he's 12, going on 18. He comes home from school. He's sometimes in a bit of a tiz, a bit of a mood, and I say to him, "Is everything all right at school? Has something happened? Did you not have your dinner? Have you been in detention?" And I go through all these things because I'm using the categories that I understand his world. I understand about his world to find the answer to something. Now, when we explore the spiritual realm, we start using the mental categories, our intellect. Is the spiritual realm a place, a physical place? Is it something we get to by opening a door? Is it my emotions? And we're trying to capture the spiritual world with the wrong kind of stuff. So I believe that we really discover our inner spirit and the spiritual world by resting, which is why I use the word pause, resting the mind, your brain trying to work it out, and resting your body, trying to physically or emotionally feel it. One of the great phrases I use is that it's just at the end of your fingertips. It feels like it's just beyond our grasp. But, like that beautiful beach in Spain where I was with my wife, it kind of was out of our grasp. But we discovered somebody had gone before us and stuck a rope so we could get down there. And so I would encourage anybody that's interested in spirituality to look for where other people have traveled in that direction and see if they've left you a rope to get to that spiritual place. I now call my book to anybody, I just say it's a rope. Just treat it as a rope, something that you can use to get to somewhere you think is currently inaccessible or inaccessible. So yeah, pause is really important. I get asked a lot about whether it's a religious thing, because I'm been involved with the church for a long time, and I preach in churches and all that stuff. But it's not. My book, Pause, is really a shout out for every human being on the planet, because I am convinced that we are body, mind, and spirit. So the book is an encouragement to look for the spirit within you. So it's not talking about the Holy Spirit or the Spirit of God. It's talking about your spirit, and that you are a spiritual person because you're human and it's part of your makeup. So yeah, that's my passion. It really is my passion.
You can tell. You can tell how passionate you are about it. I like how you use the analogy of the rope, because you and your wife didn't know how strong that rope was, but you trusted it.
Yeah.
And I think that spirituality is the same thing. You grasp onto whatever thing you're going to dig into, and you just trust the journey and finding the answers, or finding whatever is at the bottom of that rope, if you will. And I think it's really neat that you had that experience and can connect the two in the way that you have, because it is a trust fall. It really is.
Yes. It is. It's when I take funerals a lot, I'm very privileged to still be able to do that. I'm asked by a lot of people, and one of the things I often say to people is it's a mystery. We're letting go of this person into a mystery that's beyond our sight, and we are, we're trusting that there is something there. Many of us are convinced there's something there, but I am convinced, but that doesn't mean I can make anybody else convinced. That's their own journey to go on. And so it's a mystery beyond our sight. And you're absolutely right. The rope is just a great illustration. Oftentimes as well, people will want, we all want to recreate. I used to cycle a lot, to still do a little bit. And where I live, I could do about a 40-mile cycle ride in a circle. And when I started doing it, I had to keep going out I used to go out on a Saturday morning with maps on my bike. And, do I turn left or right here? Do I go to that village and then go left? And I would created circular routes. But I remember when it all changed was when I no longer needed a map. And I could leave my house and I could head off in a certain direction and do a 30, 40, even 50-mile circle, and never once think, should I be going left or should I be going right? Something embedded itself inside me. It was a map of the area. And I think spirituality is like that. You build maps of how you discover doorways to your own spirituality. So again, that's part of those disciplines. That it's a terrible word. Nobody likes the word now, do they? But actually, if you do regularly sit silently, listen to your breath, if you regularly walk in the woods and take note of the leaves and the trees and the grass growing, and if you regularly do these things, you put yourself in a place where you'll stop thinking about the walk in the woods. You'll stop thinking that you're trying to be quiet. And at the end of that thinking is the spirit within you. One of the other,
get our minds out of the way.
Yes, yeah. They call it the chattering monkeys.
Yes.
Inside your mind. It'd keep going and going. There's great stories. I'm sure they're apocryphal, many of them, but of famous monk asked how long do you pray each day, and his answer is about 8 minutes. Oh, such a great saint and a great monk. You pray only for 8 minutes? Well, I spend about 4 hours each day getting to that 8 minutes. And that's just so true of us, isn't it? We've got to get beyond ourselves. And it's not terribly difficult and terribly painful. It's about a will to do it. And also a bit of a mindset to remind ourselves that if you're more than your body, then you can stop worrying about your body. If you're more than your thoughts, then you can at least allow your mind to know that your intellect and your thought world is not the totality of who you are. And what you're left with is this beautiful, amazing mystery that there's a spirituality about you. And I would walk further than that, because I've come to a place of now being almost thirsty for the completeness of that mystery, which ultimately means I will shed my body one day, and I'll stop being part of this physical world, as it were. And I don't necessarily fear that anymore, because obviously I'm talking about death, but I don't fear it, because I'm so convinced now that as I've spent more and more time meditating and praying and being silent and recognizing there's something else there, that I think that's what will happen. I think I'll walk into this amazing, beautiful universe. Another thought that came to me when you were speaking earlier is that we're asking questions. We're all of us always asking questions. And we're often asking the question, why am I here? Who am I? What's my purpose? But actually, a greater question is, who am I in this universe? Who cares about what well, of course you do, but who cares about what my purpose of being in Crewe is in England, or, what you think you in Utah or somewhere like that? It's okay to have a sense of purpose and stuff, but we're bigger than that. We're part of a universe. Even if you're a person of faith, I'm a Christian, and I believe God created the universe. So it's big, it's huge, it's beyond my imagination. And there's a part of me that will one day truly understand it, and maybe even travel through it in a way that is beyond my imagination today. So, and another side of having a grasp of us being a spiritual being is that it's a part of our being that's not affected by our mood. It's not affected by how we think people think about us, or how we feel about the world around us, because it's not feelings, it's not emotions. That's really hard to get your head around. I know it is. It's very difficult. Takes perhaps a whole lifetime of knocking and pushing and finding. But when we find it, and another driver for calling it pause, I call them moments of pause, is that when you have had a moment of pause, and by pause I mean your mind has stopped, your body has stopped, and your spirit has allowed you to somehow know it exists. When you have that moment of pause, you've had it. It's indescribable, but you've had it, and you want more. You always want more. It's like love, isn't it? Have you ever fallen in love?
Just can't get enough.
You just can't get enough. You can't, and you can't explain it. Is it a feeling? I love you with all my heart is such a ridiculous statement, because that's just, I love you with all my pump, isn't it? Because that's all the heart is. It's pumping blood around your body. So you must mean something else, something profound and deep and beautiful. Yeah. And our brain gets marred in some ways because we suffer from depression and darkness. And there's a lot of work we need to do to keep maintaining light. Our body gets decayed and broken and damaged, but there's that part of us that I believe cannot be touched by this physical realm, and that's the bit that will perhaps be eternal, is divine, is part of the cosmos, is greater than all of the other things that we can ever imagine. So why would we not waste our time on all these other things and just spend some time in your own desert place, in your own solitude, in your own silence, and discover your own spirit?
Good question. I adore your enthusiasm on this topic. I'm totally like in this listening conversation with you. We have an entire hour left to wander, but we're going to take our last break of the show. When we get back, we'll continue our journey with you, Rob.
Thank you.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hello, Wanderers. Welcome back. We are on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Soul Wanderings is the name of the show, and I'm AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And as always, we're delighted to be here tonight. It's an interesting conversation so far. More like storytelling. We are visiting with Rob Wykes, and he is the author of Pause, A Spiritual Power. And the rumors are true, Rob. You are engaging and you're passionate about spirituality. I'm here for it.
I am indeed passionate about spirituality. I am.
I like it. There's so many people who will write us or make comments during the show about what is spirituality, or, is it different than religion? Questions like that. What would you have to say to them?
Yeah. Yes, I think spirituality and religion are different in the sense that very often we confuse religious practice with spirituality. And I'm quite convinced that religious practices might help us to discover spirituality. And we often find when we start exploring spirituality, we embed ourselves in some way in a religious order or in a religious expression, because it just seems to be a good vehicle. I mean, it's a bit like if you wanted to be a writer, you don't join a golf club, do you? You don't go to a football club. You get involved with people that are similar thoughts. I think that's often why people assume there's a religious aspect to it. I also think that very often religion of all shapes and sizes has often given us some great tools to engage with our own spirituality. Interestingly, many people that speak to me about the book often are talking to me from a position of either being involved in a religious expression or having been. Some people have been hurt or damaged or whatever, they've been disillusioned. And when that happens, I often discern that it's not that they've become disillusioned with the basis of their religion or even the God of their religion. It's very often the people that are in it. And just another reminder that we sometimes cheese each other off, don't we? We're not always that good at being gracious and kind, and so often those stories will come out. But yeah, my book is not. Pause is not particularly a religious book. It's a book about being a spiritual person, and listening into that, I guess, that inner voice. In fact, I can read a couple of sentences if that helps, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, we're here for it.
You may know the whisper of an inner voice which longs for us to put a space between the flows of our activity. We're very activity driven. And so when people talk to me about religion, they're often not talking about the spirituality that might be found within a religion. They're talking about activity that's discovered in a religion. That voice, as it were, wants to be a priority in the same way that eating and sleeping are. If we don't eat or sleep, we become dysfunctional, unable to process or even stay coherent. Think about the great depths of comfort and assurance emotionally we derive from relationships, which, if neglected, leave us feeling lost and lonely. The more I explore and reach into the realm of my own spirituality, the more I realize that to neglect this area of my life is not dissimilar to that of neglecting the other areas. And so I go on to just describe how, if you don't eat, you're going to die, eventually. If you don't have good relationships, you end up bitter usually and sad. And so if we have a part of us that is spiritual, it needs feeding. I often think sometimes of the spirit within me crying out, give me some attention, please. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important that we give our spirituality attention. And we are in a world at the moment, I think, that is asking questions, not of religion, or even of psychology and philosophy. People are asking questions about themselves, the deeper meaning for their existence.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it is an existence that goes beyond the eyes. It's beyond our sight,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual realm. So, they're great questions to ask, but where will they get the answers? Who is offering the answer and who is giving a steer towards those answers? And very often it is a religious community
Mm-hmm.
that will be looking to give those answers. I think that's really important. And the other thing that I often come to think about is the word contentedness. When I think of what it's like to discover moments of spirituality, it is also described easily as the word contented, utterly contented, no more questions. In fact, in the Christian faith that I'm part of, that's one of the central beliefs, is there'll come a point in our existence, perhaps not in this world, in this life, there comes a point when there'll be no more questions. There's a great phrase in the Bible, I will be known as I am known. And it's a description of complete knowledge. There's nothing else to know. Sounds dead boring, doesn't it, really? But I'm sure it's not.
No.
I'm sure it's not. One of the other people that I've found really helpful as I've explored spirituality is a man called Bede Griffiths, who's really kind of an edgy Christian, in the sense that he was a Catholic priest and a monk, a Benedictine monk, who went out to India and wore his brown robes. You can imagine, you got the sight of this man with a beard, but he had a brown robe of a Benedictine monk with a piece of rope round the middle and a cross on a chain. And he described in his books how he sat at a table with his knife and fork and ate his dinner. And then he looked at all the people around him in this part of India, South India, sitting on the floor, eating with their hands. And he realized that he wanted to make a connection with them, but he couldn't possibly do that whilst he was on a table and they were on the floor. So he chucked his table out and his knife and fork away and ate with his hands. And then he recognized that the priests in Hinduism and a lot of the religions around where he was wore a yellow robe. And so he changed his brown robe for a yellow robe, which meant that the people that he was spending time with in the community instantly recognized him as a priest. And so he discovered that although he was a Christian and a Catholic, he was able to learn something from the community he was in, which had a different expression of faith. And he melted those things together. And he speaks a lot about centeredness, which is another word we come up with a lot lately. Centeredness, finding the center of who you are, the actual central part of your existence, which I would say is the spirit within you. If you talk about religion, we always end up talking about God, of course. But when we speak of God, when we're childish in a way, we see a bearded man up there in space, as it were, on a cloud. In my faith, in my Christian faith, we speak of God as God the Father, and I don't particularly have a problem with that, other than God is neither man nor woman, and we're in a time in our history when we're recognizing that us blokes have said too much and been too much in control. So, as we grow up in our faith and in our spirituality, as we grow up and mature, we become able to see beyond those things that probably are quite restrictive and that are also a bit exclusive and not helpful to a spiritual growth. the great thing about I've just said, God's neither male nor female, but we call him Father. These are the tricks that we have to get round so that we understand God is God.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think of God, we mustn't think of God as something, as a person or as a force or an energy that we can control. God would be completely outside of all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Bede Griffiths, the man I was just speaking about, it's a great sentence I read of his. He says our natural senses, so that's our thoughts, our the five senses, feel, touch, and smell. Our natural senses cannot possess God or unite us to God. Your inward faculties, he used the great old-fashioned language. He's quite old. Your inward faculties of understanding, your will and your memories can only reach after God, but cannot be the place of God's habitation. And he goes on to describe how if we do want to talk about God, a God, and we want to think of spirituality in terms of a God, then we won't possess God, and God won't possess our thoughts or our emotions. It will be our spirit, which is why all religions in the end talk of a spirit. And pause, a spiritual power, is all about that you and I have a spirit. And so if we go off talking about religion, if we're talking about spirituality, then the connection is with the spirit within you. It's not with your intellect. And that's quite comforting, because I think Natalie mentioned earlier about belief systems. I think AJ, you did too, that we develop belief systems, and sometimes we don't know what our belief systems are. Well, that's just your intellect. That's just our mind creating ideas and thoughts and sentences to frame something. But the minute we think we've framed God, we've probably missed the boat.
For sure.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people deter away from anything that says God. So they go against religion because they have this adverse feeling or whatever it is about God. And then they go over to spirituality because that feels more comfortable to them. But the energy of spirituality and the energy of God would be the same. Wouldn't you agree? Or is it something different to you?
It's not different to me at all. And I think that is the issue that often happens, is that, or comes up, is that we, so for me, it's quite simple. Maybe I'm just very simple, but it's quite simple in the sense that I have a belief in God. I believe there is a God. I've considered myself fortunate to have accepted the Christian faith. So, which not everybody will. And so I have a framework in which my spirituality can operate. And I think that what you're saying is quite common, that people move away from a religion. It doesn't matter what religion it is, Muslim, Christian, Hindu. People move away from a religion, often disillusioned, towards what we call spirituality. But I wonder if they're moving not away from God or the idea of God or the concept of an ultimate power or creator. What they're moving away from, which I understand entirely, is this institutional expression of a faith. So what puts us off is we might come to a position of thinking, well, I don't agree with priests, or I don't like the way the structure operates. I don't like the restrictions it puts on me. But all those things are man-made, aren't they? They're all conjured up by us. And so I, for instance, I have several friends who are devout Christians in every sense of the word, but they do not go to a church, which sounds odd, but it's because for whatever reason, they've come to a place in their lives where they don't doubt the existence of God. They're enjoying a level of spirituality, but the actual institution that operates around that faith has in some way offended them or hurt them in some way.
And that goes back to the man, like you were talking about earlier. It goes back to the people, not the religion or not the spirituality.
And so often I find that the religions can be boxes. They are inherently structures, and they're so often bureaucratic in many ways.
Yes.
Because there is things that are necessary to continue to support an organization and keep its existence going, and then money comes involved and all those things. And then sometimes the box of trying to contain God in a box or an organization or a structure like that leaves people wanting more, because there's like, this is not, at least even my personal experience in my life, just God's spirituality, God could not be put inside a box that man could create.
Yes.
So that's often a thing. One thing that I was thinking about as you were talking is language, but language beyond words. So spirituality and God is ineffable. It's really, truly beyond words. And so I was thinking about you were talking about like rituals or practice or prayer or, a regular structured something that you do to reach that moment of where you actually pause. And so you practice the language, and it's a different sort of language than verbal. And so it's like there's just getting this this sort of inspirational thought that as you practice, as you do a routine, as you do rituals, you learn language of spirit.
100%, absolutely. Yes, I agree. In fact, that is the great conundrum in a way, and the challenge is that. So one of the things I say in the book clearly is I cannot say that if you every Tuesday sit on a mat and pray this prayer, something's going to happen. I can't. But equally, I know that if you don't have those patterns in your life of some description, you're highly unlikely to experience a moment of pause. It's just the nature of life, isn't it? If you stay busy, you're never going to stop. You've got to create something in there. So it's getting that balance. And I think that's one of the things that happens, sadly, in religious expressions for us as well, is that things become religious. So we do it repetitively without really engaging with it. So yeah, I completely understand that. And it is a language, but it's a language that we can't. So one of the challenges is if somebody says, prove to me God exists, you go around this silly circle, don't you? Of, well, I can't, I just know. Prove you love somebody. Well, I can't, I just know. And it's exactly the same with moments of pause. That your mind and your body have given space to the spirit within you. One of the phrases I often use is that a true moment of pause, it isn't just the stopping of your mind and your body, it is the starting of your spirit. And so when I say a moment of pause, the phrase I use is it's when our mind, our body and our spirit coalesce around a single moment in time. And that then could also be translated into utter unity, when those three parts of our body and our mind and our spirit, the three elements of who we are, when they are in absolute unity, then we are pausing. And we speak about language. It's quite difficult to write a book about it, because one of the things I have to say in the book is you can't really explain it.
Right.
So I'm fumbling around with words and pictures and images to describe something that actually my words and pictures and images ultimately cannot describe. But hopefully together they open a conversation with the reader and with themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's the great challenge, isn't it? And just another note on religion is, I often think we're too hard on religion as well, on religions, because we leave religions, people leave the church and then they get involved with mindfulness and a few other things, and have nothing wrong with those things. They're actually very helpful. But mindfulness is now quite a religion.
Yes.
You go to classes, you get the books. There are certain techniques that, if you follow those, you're going to be in the in club. It's all kind of, it's very binary, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You're in or you're out. You are or you aren't. You can or you can't. And ultimately, spirituality is so much richer than that. Which is why I suspect that people in history that have discovered a rich spirituality say very little about it.
Mm-hmm.
They've no need to prove anything to anybody or even themselves. So it's that kind of space, isn't it?
Well, it is. And it's also you have to put yourself into that. Just like I'm thinking back to your rope analogy where you and your wife had to submit yourself to climbing down the rope and navigating that. And for people to really commune with their spirit, they've got to be walking on the road.
Yes.
They have to do. It's not so much about doing, but as the exploration or the willingness or the surrender to it.
Yes. It's surrender is obviously another key word, isn't it? They're all S's: silence, solitude, surrender. Very alliterated, but it is about giving yourself to it, right. Giving yourself to that journey and not fearing it, and being we are exploring, aren't we, into something that nobody else is going to get into. You're not exploring my spirit and I'm not exploring yours,
right.
But yet together we might engage in something that would allow our spirits to move. So it is, there's we do tug of war. Have you ever heard of, do you do tug of war? Have you come across, with the rope, usually on a village green or something at some community function. Well, I remember once I was in a tug of war. It happened to be the church against the local pub. Well, I always joke, we won, but not because we prayed. We won because they drank beforehand. so that was it. But I always remember very distinctly, it was quite evenly matched. And if you listen to the rope in a tug of war match, it's quite a thick rope. If you listen to it, you can hear it squeak, the tension in the rope. And as the two sides pulled, there was this moment. There's two little tags on the rope. So the rope is it's in half, isn't it? There's one group of people one side, one group the other, and then there's an umpire in the middle. And you've got to pull the rope to win. You've got to pull the other team a certain distance in your direction. If you can picture that in your mind. And I remember I was right at the front and the rope stopped. The squeaking noise stopped. there was so much tension on this rope, 15 burly people one side and 15 the other, pulling on the rope. And just for a moment, the noise stopped and we all held the tension. And that was a perfect illustration of a pause. We weren't going forward, we weren't going backwards. Nothing was giving. It was all just held in suspension until, of course, it did give, and then you're all falling down one side and running the other. But again, just it reminds me that sometimes we live in a tension of holding things together and saying to somebody, you need to pause is a terrible sentence.
Take the pause is a very common thing that people say. You need to take a pause.
Take a breather. It's very difficult if you're in the middle of tension, isn't it?
You're like, what are you talking about?
How will that help me get through this problem?
Yes. There's a man called Oswald Chambers who was a Scottish preacher. He's quite well known in America. There was a book written of all of his sayings by his wife, and it's called My Utmost for His Highest. But Oswald Chambers had this great saying. He died in 1917 in the First World War. And he was a very wise man, very spiritual man. And he said, in terms of with God, he said, with God, it's never do and you will be, it's be and God will do through you. And he had this lovely way of reminding us that very often it's in the stopping of things that the greatest progress happens.
He was so young.
Yes, Oswald Chambers was very young, 43 when he died. But yeah, it's in the stopping of things that the bigger things happen. And I think that's quite a, in the Jewish history, there's a man called Elijah, and the famous words written about him is that he didn't hear the voice of God in the thunder or in the fire or in the wind. It was a still small voice. It was in the quiet. And people like Gandhi would wander off and have lengthy time alone. Again, being alone with themselves. Buddha, these great people of the past that we look to sometimes and find words of wisdom and indications. I often think they just give us an indication of the road down which we should walk. That road often is about quietness and silence. Not cutting yourself off, because that's not healthy, but finding a space for yourself. Self-care is another common word now, isn't it? A common phrase. We're very interested in self-care, but that doesn't mean getting your hair done, although that wouldn't take me more than 2 seconds. But obviously those that can't see me, I've got no hair. But self-care is deeper than the surface, isn't it? It's almost deeper than the emotions.
Right.
And it only happens when you stop and you're quiet and you're still. And that's where the spirit operates.
What's the difference between the pause that you're referring to and prayer or meditation?
So prayer and meditation or contemplation, although contemplation and meditation are different, but prayer and meditation and contemplation, they are actions. So prayer is a conversation often. And I do comment in the book that I sometimes think that our prayers are really just internal conversations, because a prayer, so let's have a position that God exists. I believe God exists, and therefore that God who exists can hear everything that's going on and is aware of this conversation. And we could say that's a prayer. A prayer is when you then speak to that God. Now, we can assume God is listening just by the fact that God listens and hears everything. That's not the same as prayer. Prayer surely is when our spirit is interacting with the Spirit of God. And so sometimes prayer is just a conversation in your head. And the difference between praying, meditating, contemplation, and pause is that pause is beyond those things. So I think prayer, meditation, and contemplation take us to a doorway. Pause is the acknowledgement that we've walked through it. In fact, I often think contemplation reminds me of a tumble dryer. You put your clothes in the tumble dryer and it spins round. You put one garment in and somehow it builds all that fluff up. And when you take the garment out, there's a load of other stuff there that you didn't know was there. And that's a contemplation, is you taking a word or a phrase or a thought and you're thinking about it and contemplating, and it will grow, it will get bigger. Meditation usually is, and it's a great practice, meditation is when we might, for instance, in my tradition, we might use the Jesus prayer, but you use a mantra and you're saying a word or a phrase over and over and over again so that your brain becomes so familiar with that word that you don't have to think about its meaning. And when you meditate correctly, that phrase, that mantra, allows you to move beyond your thoughts. And then you would enter a pause, a moment in the spirit. Without over-egging it, there's a sense in which you enter that you leave this realm and enter another, but you obviously clearly don't. So it's a little bit like peeking into heaven, if you want. You're not staying, but you're looking through, and you have. And in one of my chapters, I talk about doors. For instance, the Bible talks about knocking on doors, and lots of different philosophies talk about doors. A pause is not that you've just knocked the door, but the door's opened. And praying and reading and meditating and contemplating, these things are often knocking on a door in the hope that they'll open. And a pause is that it has opened. And that's the difference. I think the reflection is that one is doing and the other one is being.
That's very clear.
Makes sense.
In fact, if you're creative, which I know both of you are very creative, when we're creative, very often you'd be doing something and then you realize that you can't remember how you got to the bit you're at. People knit. I know lots of people that knit, jumpers or whatever, and they're completely unaware that they've just knitted 3 rows because their hands are going and they're chatting to somebody. And in a way, that's these practices that we do. A mantra, for instance, takes you to the place where you're just unaware.
Yeah. They're very meditative.
Very, yes.
That's how I feel when I'm crocheting. You don't really think about it. They say to count. I don't really count. I just feel. And I'm just going and going. And I don't know where my head goes or where my heart goes, but I am not here, but my hands are still doing the work. And I feel like that's just like one of my favorite ways to meditate. Because it allows my body to be busy, but my mind and spirit to be free.
Yes. When I think back to my time at St. Paul's, the charity, which one of the main events there was furniture. We collected furniture, sometimes repaired it, and then gave it to people that couldn't afford to buy it. So that was the principle of it. And it was a lot of furniture. I think it was 15,000 items a year or something like that. It was quite big.
Wow.
But the fixing of the furniture was, for me, the prize, because it would be an opportunity for somebody to become lost in the work and forget about their troubles. And I noticed this often in men with addictions or with real brokenness in their family lives. Some of them have been living on the streets, and just the creative action of fixing and mending and, woodwork or whatever it was, just the action of it allowed them to stop worrying about their worries and their troubles, and allowed them to engage in something that had purpose and all that stuff. But it moved them in a way that nothing else in their lives did. And often I reflect on those days and think, those are, for many of them, they would have been very spiritual moments or the first time that they would have encountered something deep within themselves that was not reflecting on, their troubles. And in fact, I wrote a book, my first book, was about the charity, but it's called It's Not About the Furniture. And it's because people would say, oh, that's the furniture charity. And I would say, no, it's got nothing to do with furniture. You've got to look at the hands that are carrying it, or the head that's sleeping on the bed. It's the people, not the furniture. And that's, I often reflect on religion as well. And I think, people look and they'll say to me, well, you go to church on Sunday and you do whatever you do. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to church on Sunday. I am the church. It isn't those things that we do. It is us. And so it's not about the furniture. And it's not about the church and the religious expression. It's about God. And so it's getting that truer understanding of the world around us.
That is so beautiful, the way that you describe that. It's just like when people see God outside of themselves, not having the understanding that we are. And it's the same, I feel like. There are so many people who feel like you can only be religious and not spiritual, or be spiritual and not religious. You're proof that you can be both.
I hope so. Yes. And actually, I don't have to, but if I had to choose, I would choose spirituality, because it fulfills every desire that my religious desires have. So I go to church because it's great to meet my mates there, and all that stuff. It's a club, it's a friendship group, but that is one of my ways in which I engage with my God. But I don't, it's not the soul of, it's not God, is what I'm trying to say. Church is not God. In fact, there's a famous, and I can't remember the name of it, American, years and years ago, I'm going back into the 1970s and 80s. He was a singer, he was a Christian, very involved in the church. And he used a phrase that going to church makes you no more a Christian than going to McDonald's makes you a hamburger.
Oh, lovely.
And in a sense, going to church doesn't, or synagogue, or to, wherever, going to a place of religious expression isn't the thing that will define whether or not you are engaging with God. Engaging with God is what defines you engaging with God. It's just church sometimes facilitates it for us in the way that, I know both of you are quite supportive of people and helpful in their journey of releasing themselves, discovering themselves, of becoming healed and changed. But I suspect that you wouldn't want them to look at you as the answer.
No.
That's true.
You know, because then they'll have to keep coming back to you, and they wouldn't be free. And that's the same with church. In a way, you know, my joy in church is to help people find their own way to God and not need to keep coming back to me. That's the key. And so with pause as spiritual power, the subtitle is about finding the entrance to your spirituality. And you know, back to my rope analogy, the rope helped us find that beautiful place. But if we really wanted to keep going there, we'd probably create our own rope or a ladder, or we'd do something. we want our independence to find it. And so we help each other to the point of independence, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I remember when I first started my spiritual journey, if you will, there were a handful of people who wanted to be that guru, wanted me to continually come back to them. And when you're first starting on the journey, you don't know better, right? And so you're looking to these people to heal you, or whatever that looks like for you in that moment. And it you know, hindsight is very frustrating, but that's also part of the journey of learning that. And I like that you brought that up, because it is so important that we help each other in any way possible, but also that we don't allow others to rely on us, that we support them in their journey and their healing. And I think religion and spirituality are both tools to do that.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I mean, I'd be interested in what you think, but I don't know if we can be truly fulfilled as a human by just being fulfilled in body and mind.
I wouldn't say so.
I think there's this element of us that is craving for attention and inviting us. That's why I use the word whisper. I think that the spirit within us whispers to us, you know, speak to me, look at me, spend time with me. Which sounds crazy. It sounds like there's a voice inside your head, and it's not in your head. Because if it's in your head, you're in trouble.
I wonder sometimes.
So it's sort of beyond that. And often I think, and we have to go through these things. I would never say they're negative, but often we're doing deals with our mind. So we you know, people do a deal with God, don't they? You know, actually in my own personal experience, I've shared this for very many years, but I was basically, when I was younger, I was arrested for something, and I was in a cell, and it wasn't a terrible crime. I didn't go to prison or anything, but I was in a cell, and I remember probably my first ever prayer, which was not really a prayer, was, if God, you're real and you get me out of here, I'll do anything for you. And I don't even know who I was talking to, but I just used the word God. And of course, as soon as I got out, I never gave God another thought. You know, and I didn't attribute my getting out to God. And we do deals all the time. So, and I share that because often with spirituality and our spiritual journey, we're doing deals, trying in our mind to say, look, I'll pray for an hour, or I'll sit and I'll meditate. I'll try to meditate. And we're doing a deal with ourselves to try and get a feeling that we think would be a spiritual experience. But we do those things because we do sometimes then get past it, almost like we trip into it. One of the things I talk about in the book is that we often encounter a spiritual moment when we least expected it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is a coming together of lots of things that we couldn't have predicted. You know, you turn a corner and you see an amazing scene, you know, and the sun is there and the trees or whatever it is. And there's a moment when you give way and allow the Spirit to speak. But if you were to try and reproduce it, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's called mysticism. You know,
Mystery.
It's a mystery, but one that we know exists. So we should look for it and seek it, and listen out for it. Yeah, and I think God, personally, I think God does speak to us, but I don't think it's in an audible, intelligible way. And
Do
so
you feel like when you say that God speaks to us, do you feel like it's through other people or like a song or experiences? How do you feel like you receive those messages?
So I think God speaks to us through all of those mediums, you know, it might be reading something, it might be hearing a song, it might be somebody saying something, it might be reading a piece of scripture or text. I do think God speaks to us in those things, but I think that we see those things as the voice and they're not the voice. I think that we sometimes think that God has spoken to us, and I'm not saying God hasn't, but that when God speaks to us, we see it as an intellectual expression. So what I'm saying is, you know, you might, for instance, say something to me, and I instinctively know that that's God has told me something there, as it has revealed something to me, but it's not your words, and it's not the intellectual capacity that you've said something I now understand, and I'm equating that with God's voice. It's something deeper and unmistakable. And people often speak about that. People will often in religious circles speak about that, you know, they felt God spoke to them. And when you examine it, it's something deep inside. And so, I think that's the Spirit. I just believe that God is Spirit, and therefore God doesn't need to talk to my intellect to convince me of something. There's something else God can make contact with. Yes, it within me.
So I feel like on the reverse, then we don't need to use our intellect to God either. So that's a different form of communication. If you're praying, and you're praying with your spirit or with your soul, it's going to be a different connection than if you're talking through prayer through your mind.
Yes, and I think a lesson from history here is, or from the East in a way, is we're Western,
very mind,
North American, unfortunately, and so our understanding of everything is our understanding of it, because we like to capture it, and we like to formulate things and clarify them. And I just sense that we could learn a lot more from Eastern religions, and particularly Eastern expressions of Christianity. And early expressions of Christianity were not all about books and theology. It was much deeper than that, and it wasn't formularized. So I think you're right, actually, Natalie, to say that that God speaks to us at a level and in a language that's not an intellectual language. The words are almost immaterial. And that bears out in a lot of people's lives. I know many Christians who commonly say, actually, and it's quite common within church circles, to say that, AJ spoke at this church and said X, Y, and Z, and it meant nothing. And the following week, Natalie comes along and says exactly the same thing, and that becomes the word of God. And so my answer to that is, it wasn't AJ or Natalie. It was the spirit within you making contact with God, who is spirit, and God determining this is the moment to release that piece of wisdom to you. So that's it. So, and it kind of it lends itself to, as you were saying, AJ, earlier, that it's quite easy if you become, in a way, the voice of God or the answer to someone's problems, for them to then look upon you as opposed to the wisdom that you were passing on.
Mm-hmm.
We're very human-centered, aren't we? We're very us-centered.
We're very disconnected in general.
Well, I think so, and I think that's very. I think it's very Western.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are very, very enamored of celebrity, of being known, of having, purpose and notoriety and use. We like to know that we're of use in the world. Whereas as you move towards further back in history and towards the earlier expressions often of religious groups and spirituality, you discover it was much more about humility and not being known and being humble and staying in the background, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think our Western mind doesn't help us.
No, not at all. And there's just so much more to that. That's a whole other discussion.
It is.
There's so much conditioning that goes on and takes place, and it allows us a great foundation to be able to check out and disconnect in ways that the East does not have. They're definitely more in tune with themselves and their spirit and their environment and creator or whatever else.
Yes.
Their life is so different than ours.
It is, and some of that's by choice, I guess.
I mean, they have the surroundings that support it, right? Here is a little more work, and people like instant gratification.
we absolutely we do. We want instant coffee, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to spend time on something. And I think I'm giving a shout out for the spirit within us wants us to spend some time with it, with our own spirit.
There's an invitation, everyone. I hope you're listening. I love the reminders. I mean, just like on the journey I've been on the last 2 weeks, even everything's always shifting and changing, but having the little reminders and all of the food for thought that you've given us tonight has been,
thank you,
timely and very much appreciated.
It's always on point.
It is. And see, he's the messenger tonight.
Oh, isn't it lovely?
Thank you.
And we are all listening. I don't know why I had no idea that it was so late where you were. I don't think we had that conversation, but the fact that you're still up and awake with us and sharing these beautiful messages is just a gift. Thank you so much.
It's absolutely my pleasure. It's great to have conversations and to share. Really is. Yeah. And we learn from each other, don't we? When we stop thinking we've got all the answers, we start to find more answers. I think that's another key.
You think you were getting to the end of knowing it all, but you know less. It's it's quite crazy how it works out. The more you think you know, the less you do.
So true.
It is. It really is. But if we can just help somebody else along the way, and we're all behaving in that way. It just creates a better atmosphere for the world.
Yes.
And I, I worked for nearly 30 years actually, in total, but I worked for 25 years with people on the margins of society, with the poor and the dispossessed and stuff. And it was a great time of my life, but I knew almost every single day that there was more to the sort of the creating and the building up of people's lives than just their body and their mind. We run education programs, and we ran programs to help them, food banks and stuff like that, and housing. But I always knew there was constantly this sense in me that, yes, the body and yes, the mind, but what about this part of this person that I would say is eternal and divine and beautiful, and how can I help them experience that part of their lives too in a positive way, which I think is what you two do as well. I mean, it's great. You help build people up and give them hope and an opportunity to think that life can be better. I always think if tomorrow can be better than today, you've done a good deed.
Yes, it takes an army.
Yes, it does.
We're all doing the work. And your work is so appreciated, Rob. I wish we had more time, but it's probably time to tuck yourself in.
Yes. I'm absolutely fine, actually. I really am. I'm good.
You're awesome. It's so appreciated. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap, but we'd love to have you visit again in the future. And to all of you who are wanting to know more about Rob, before we go, make sure you visit Rob Wykes, WYKES.com. There you can learn about him and grab his books. Or anywhere else?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, actually, and the usual place. Barnes and Noble, I think.
Perfect.
Get it. Yeah.
So good. All right. It's a wrap, everyone. Thanks for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
And as always, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.
Good night.